they had a link going, you can buy it at Target as well, like on the website. So you could buy on the website or buy it on Target. I clicked on Target. It was actually cheaper to buy it on Target. So their own products were being sold on Target for less money. So why would you ever buy on their website? There's literally no reason to buy on their website because Target's a more trusted brand. It's cheaper on Target. You probably get better shipping and faster shipping. So like there's so many factors that go into conversion rate.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the WBS Podcast. I'm Sam Gupta, your host and principal consultant at digital transformation consulting firm Elevate IQ. For e-commerce sites, the conversion rate is perhaps the most critical metric. Many sites focus on getting tons of traffic, but what is the point in having that traffic if they don't convert? When it comes to improving conversion rate, various factors drive the conversion rate, including page speed, expectations of your users, and flow or navigation. In today's episode, we invited a panel of cross-functional experts for a live interview on LinkedIn who brings significant expertise to discuss conversion rate optimization techniques. We covered many grounds in this episode, including the factors that drive it. Finally, we also had a chance to touch if platform selection may affect the conversion rate and any strategies to improve it. With that, let's get to the conversation.
Hello guys, welcome everyone to today's show. And today we have a very exciting topic for you, and that is the conversion rate. And anybody who has been in the e-commerce for a while, they would appreciate how much conversion rate is going to be important and what all the strategies that you have to employ to make sure you are going to get the right conversion for your site. So we are going to start with everybody's intro. Eric, I'm going to start with you. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. I'm Eric Landman. I'm the e-commerce division manager of Earthling Interactive. We're an agency that builds and maintains e-commerce sites and web apps. And I'm a Magento certified solution specialist. Have built about 50 or more than 50 sites and quite a number of different platforms. And I'm here to offer my expertise as a developer.
Okay, amazing. And your expertise is going to be super important just because the kind of depth you get on the sites, it's going to be super critical, especially from the development perspective. Thank you so much for being here, Eric. Chris, do you want to introduce yourself next?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I am Chris Harrington, co-founder and president of Gen Alpha Technologies. We deliver an e-commerce, analytics, and e-catalog platform for equipment manufacturers. Always excited to be here every Wednesday to discuss relevant topics for our audience. So great to see everyone again.
Yeah, and it's going to be so interesting to discuss the intel from your perspective, just because the depth that you have from the B2B perspective is going to be unmatchable. Thank you so much for being here, Chris. Okay, Chase, do you want to introduce yourself next?
Sure. So my name's Chase Clymer. I'm the co-founder at Electric Eye, and we're a Shopify consultancy that helps take D2C brands from $1 million to $10 million a year.
Okay, amazing. And Chase, I know that we have been talking for a while, and conversion rate is going to be your expertise. So we are super excited to dig into all of those practical experiences that you have in fixing the site and improving their conversion rates.
It'll be fun.
Thank you so much for being here. Dave, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Of course. Hello, everyone. This is Dave Meyer with BusyWeb. BusyWeb is a growth marketing agency that focuses on B2B services and manufacturing, and we help drive conversions from leads through to connections and then revisit and kind of close the loop and keep those customers coming back for more. We use HubSpot, WordPress, Google Suite services, all of those things, and try to drive all of the traffic back and keep it converting. And conversion rate optimization is a huge thing for us. super excited to be part of the chat. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, and you bring a very unique expertise, especially from the HubSpot perspective, that is going to be super relevant for today's topic. Thank you so much for being here, Dave. Isaiah, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Isaiah, the CEO of Trellis. We're a full-service e-commerce agency. So we do everything from design, development to post-launch marketing and growth. We primarily focus on Shopify, BigCommerce, Magento or Adobe Commerce now, and headless. So a lot of React front-end development and kind of headless commerce projects. We're seeing more and more of that.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Isaiah, for being here. Obviously, you bring a very comprehensive perspective overall from the branding to design, and obviously for the conversion rate optimization. It's going to be so critical. Thank you so much for being here.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, so I am actually going to kick off the conversation with one of the topics, just overall discussing the factors that really drive the conversion and what are the factors that are going to be important when we are looking at the conversion rate optimization. So I am going to start with you, Eric. Would you like to touch in defining what conversion rate is and painting the picture overall, the factors that is going to drive the conversion rate optimization?
Well, conversion rate is from the time your prospective customer winds up on your site, do they wind up doing a conversion? And a conversion can be defined as a sale, or it can also be defined as filling out a quotation form, or perhaps a contact us form, or contact a sales representative if you're in a B2B site. All of these things can be regarded as conversions if that's what your site owner wants, that's their goal. The types of things that influence this are a lot. I'm a developer, so I deal with the technical hang-ups and glitches and how to build things working with a marketing team. And so my developers and I will figure out how to solve a problem. Perhaps the problem is we want to capture more leads so we can do follow-up emails, abandoned cart emails, or follow-up marketing. And we may want to get those people into HubSpot. We want to ask them a certain set of questions and get them to answer them as best as we can. So we do things like that. We also do technical analysis of page performance. Like we've been doing a lot of page speed optimizations lately to figure out how we can produce the best results in Google PageSpeed. PageSpeed is a tool that Google lets developers use to analyze pages. And they've lately, Google has really tightened up their expectations for how pages perform. So a lot of site owners are going, where'd all our traffic go? They're falling off the search results. So we are looking at what happened and how we can improve the page delivery and from a technical perspective. This doesn't have anything to do with the imagery or messaging. This is purely how the page is built and how it performs when a browser or a Google bot hits it. So those are, from my perspective as a development team, that's some of the topics that we tackle.
Yeah, so some very interesting insights there. And you made one of the comment, Eric, related to conversion. And that is going to be, if you are not doing the conversion, I don't know what you are doing and why you are building the website, right? I don't know if anybody is just spending money for fun. I would probably not do that. But yeah, I mean, the underlying goal for everyone is going to be the conversion. And you mentioned, you hit on a couple of very important points that even though the conversion may sound simple, but there are a lot of psychological factors that actually drive the conversion rate. And all of those are going to be relevant, whether you talk about just the tools and technology or you are talking about the other factors that are going to drive the conversion. So Chase, I am actually going to move to you next. What are your thoughts so far? Do you agree with the definition that Eric has provided? What are different factors that are going to drive the conversion?
I definitely agree with what he had to say, mostly because he gave a very honest and broad overview of conversions where my expertise we're very focused on e-commerce. So our goal is to just more sales, bigger cart values. That's where I spend most of my day noodling on stuff. So I definitely agree. And What I do kind of want to point out though is like the difference between like e-commerce and like B2B, which is mostly looking for leads and like driving more conversations, is like a lot of the tactics are kind of the same. It's just kind of how you implement them at the end of the day.
Okay, amazing. So some very interesting insights, especially when you talk about, B2C and B2B, the definition of conversion may be different, but overall the customer journey is going to be fairly similar. But do you want to touch on some of those specific tactics that you are talking about that are going to be relevant, let's say in B2C and B2B?
Yeah, I would say one of the ones that's the biggest issue with most websites is they don't make any sense at all. When you're using a website that isn't thought out from a strategic perspective to walk someone down a funnel and like make them do what you want them to do, that's usually the biggest issues with any sort of B2B website or any kind of lead gen website. If it isn't built with a strategic like journey in mind, if it's just throwing a bunch of information on a website with no real end goal, it's going to just be a hot mess to try to get the user or customer, whoever's browsing the website, to actually do what you want them to do. And honestly, like just from the e-commerce perspective, we see huge lifts just like explaining that to customers, clients of ours, and walking them through how to structure their navigation so it makes sense, so people can actually get to where they want to be faster. You'd be surprised at how just the structure of your navigation and how people walk themselves through your website can impact conversions.
Yeah, so some very interesting points, and said that, websites need to make sense. And that's a very interesting point. But I do want to touch on the strategic journey comment. So let's say if the listeners might not be familiar with what a strategic journey is. So let's say if I'm looking at the website as the layman, as the executive, and I'm looking at, okay, I need to go from point A to point B. But what is so strategic about it? Can you touch a little bit more on that?
Sure. So a very basic way to think about a website is every page on your website should have one specific goal.
Okay.
And if the homepage is the one that's usually everyone's got to hang up with, and for an e-commerce site, we believe the goal should be educating new prospects, so cold traffic, educating cold traffic on what it is that you're selling. What is your product? What's the value prop of that product? Why should I give you $100 for this widget? So that's the goal of like a D2C site. For like a B2B site, I would say that the homepage hero, the goal of that page is to educate them on what is the service that you offer or what is the problem your business is solving and why should I give a crap? Like that's the main goal of that homepage. And then the next step that you want them to take on that page should be a simple call to action to move a step further down the funnel. So on like a D2C site, I would say, if it is a small SKU count, maybe it's you send them to your flagship product, or a higher SKU count to your best-selling categories or whatnot. You get them closer to that conversion event. On a B2B website, maybe that's let them drill down into a more specific service offering or more specific problem that you might be able to potentially solve for them. So you're getting them closer to kind of that conversion event. From there, again, you're just going to drill down a bit more, get them closer and closer to it. So on a D2C site, you're like getting them onto the product display page. There's an add to cart button right there. On a B2B website, maybe that is a specific page about the actual service offering with the call to action to, what's the next step? Schedule an intro call or fill out an application to be considered. But yeah, at the end of the day, all of these websites should have a specific intent to drive the customer or lead to the next step by themselves.
Yeah, so some very interesting insights there. And I love the way you mentioned that each page needs to have the very specific goal. I think, Dave, in the last session, you hit on this point as well. That is going to be aligned with your overall SEO strategy. Google is going to be happy with it. And then you hit on another important point, and that is going to be how fast can you take these customers closer to conversion? And that's coming from the Sales 101. Speed is everything in sales. So the faster you take them to the finish line, the sooner they are going to convert. So thank you so much for that. Now, I am actually going to move to Isaiah. Isaiah, what is your perspective overall from the conversion perspective? Do you agree with what has been said so far? Do you disagree with anything? What are the specific strategies that you have seen that actually drive the conversion?
Yeah, I agree with everything. I think the complicated part about conversion rate optimization is that it basically includes everything, right? Like, some of the tactics mentioned are definitely effective for pretty much every business. But I think the way I would look at it is to take a step back and look holistically at the brand and where the brand's at. So just from a basic e-commerce standpoint, the first thing I would do is look at their conversion rate, see where it's at, see where it stacks up in terms of their industry and, where they should be. So let's just use e-commerce as an example. Like typically you should be at 2 to 4%, meaning 100 people visit your site, 2% convert to an actual customer. So 2 of those 100, 1 in 50 people actually buy something from your website, right? And then, a lot of that depends on the industry and your price point. And if you're selling something that's like $5,000, it's probably going to be a lower average conversion rate industry-wide than selling a $50 t-shirt. So I would take a step back, start there, see where you're at. Like, are you at 0.5%, 1%, 2%, 3%? Like, are you industry leading or are you lagging behind? And then, it's kind of using an analysis of what's the problem, right? Sometimes you just don't get enough traffic or there's just not enough traffic to the website. So if you're getting like 5 visits a month, it's probably just you need some brand awareness, right? So I would just kind of start with brand, see where the brand's at in terms of the look and feel of the brand. So I think you'd actually want to start at like almost a brand level. Like, where does my brand give off the feeling that I should convert at a competitive level, right? We're working with a brand and we were struggling to convert paid traffic. And we'd worked with many other brands similar in the industry, but their price point was super high and they weren't as well known as the competitor. So a lot of times conversion rate is because, and they had a great website. They had like probably better than most websites out there. So that's not enough, right? Like, you have to have a competitive product. You have to have good reviews. You have to have a good brand. You have to have a good price point. And then even a step further, we worked with a very large multinational company, and they had a terrible conversion rate, just weren't doing that very, very well. They were mostly in-store legacy retail company, right? Like, they're very Target, selling in all these retail stores. And I went to look at their website because they kept trying to blame us and saying the site was slow. And, it was Magento. It's hard to have a very, very fast site on Magento. and I did, it was fast enough where I didn't think that was the main problem. I went to the product pages. They had a link going, you can buy it at Target as well, like on the website. So you could buy on the website or buy it on Target. I clicked on Target. It was actually cheaper to buy it on Target. So their own products were being sold on Target for less money. So why would you ever buy on their website? There's literally no reason to buy on their website because Target's a more trusted brand. It's cheaper on Target. You probably get better shipping and faster shipping. So like, there's so many factors that go into conversion rate that you really kind of have to take a step back and look at the entire business and like, why should I buy on my website versus Amazon? Or most likely I could get a competitor product that's fairly good somewhere else. And why should I buy on my website? That's the question you really need to answer.
Yeah, so some very interesting point, and you are absolutely right that you need to step back and you need to look at your business holistically and across all channels, and especially your example about price is super critical because you need to look at all of the channels, and if you are selling, irrespective of whether you are selling through your distributors or whether online, offline, it doesn't matter. Your pricing needs to be consistent. If it is not consistent, obviously your conversion rate is going to suffer. So thank you so much for that. I am actually going to have a follow-up question overall with respect to the conversion rate. And Chase, I remember the episode that I have done with you. And one of the things that you had mentioned during your episode is going to be that, hey, when you are looking at your own brand, when you are looking at your own product offerings, it is really yours. But I have heard a lot of people talking about, hey, you know what? You need to look at and compare the industry averages as well. So let's say if your competitors are converting at 2 to 4%, 1%, whatever, it could be a great metric to be able to compare, to be able to decide whether you have any ways to improve that or not. But Isaiah, my question to you is going to be, when you are looking at the conversion rate, are you really focusing on your own conversion rate, whether you are improving historically over the period of time, or do you recommend looking at the competitors as well, just for the educational purposes, maybe not to focus? Because I want to go back to Chase and ask his opinion, what he recommends. So do you want to start first, Isaiah?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think you have to look at both because it's all relative. Like I said, I mean, 2 to 4% is kind of industry standard, but that's more for your kind of standard consumer product. So, if you're selling $5,000 HVAC equipment or something, like, you might not want to look at your business the same way that someone is that's selling a $100 t-shirt. So I think you obviously want to be improving on your own business, but I think it does help to look at the industry trends to see, like, are you behind, are you ahead, are you leading, or are you way behind where everyone's at? So
Yeah, so some great points. So Chase, I definitely want to get clarification from you, because you touch on something that when you look at any business, each business is going to be different. Each channel, in fact, is going to be extremely different. In some of the your conversion rate may be higher. In the other channels, your conversion rate may not be as high, but they could be strategic overall because you want to invest in them, maybe for strategic reasons. I don't know. So each situation is different in my experience. So do you recommend looking at the industry averages, or do you recommend focusing on your own conversion rates?
I think that it is helpful to look at industry averages. It's helpful to look at your competition, but I think that it's only from a information gathering, getting ideas perspective. Because here's the thing: if your conversion rate's 1% and your competitors is 4%, cool. You can't affect theirs. You can only affect yours. Focus on what you can actually impact. So it's, it could be a waste of time is kind of what I'm saying here. Like, don't spend too much time on it. Like, you can do some brainstorming there, but like, you got to understand from like the differences between your brand and your competitors' brands is, time in the game. They've been around for 10 years. You've been around for 2. Price points, product quality, the types of customers you're going after, it, the marketing strategy behind acquiring those customers, the offer in which you are trying to sell your product is a huge thing that it impacts conversion. So there's so much more that's different between you and your competition than the conversion rate. So I think trying to draw parallels between it is kind of just like a waste of time.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Chase, for that insight. Chris, I'm actually going to move to you. What are your insights so far? Do you agree with the definition of conversion rate, especially when it comes to B2B organizations? Is conversion different? Do you agree with Chase's definition of conversion rate? And what are different factors that you have seen in your experience that really drives the conversion rate optimization?
Yeah, I would say that I don't disagree with anything that's said here. I would add, though, that we have to be careful because the concept of conversion rate can be misleading, right? So depending on how everybody's talking about it, if we take it in its simplest form, it's orders over visits, right? And if we look at orders over visits and we calculate that, we may have a high conversion rate that then drops to a lower conversion rate. But in fact, the number of visits to our business are going up and the number of orders are going up, but the number of visits are going faster. So if your goals are to increase market share and you had to go out and find new people, new traffic, or maybe existing customers that hadn't been visiting your e-store in the past, and you're trying to get the growth there, a drop in conversion rate might still be a good thing. Obviously, you want to monitor it, but you need to be looking at the details. And I think that goes back to Isaiah's point: is you have to get to the underlying information to understand what it is you're trying to achieve. I would agree with Chase's comment that if the competitor is doing 4% and you're doing 1%, dive into the details of your 1%, because that's what you have that you can control. Now, I will say that so many times conversion rate can just be misleading, because traffic comes to your site, particularly in a B2B environment, for many activities. When we think about e-commerce as a tool for manufacturers and manufacturing customers, they're visiting your site maybe to check the order status, maybe to pay an invoice, maybe to just look at product information. Maybe they're quoting rather than ordering because they don't have the authority to buy, but they have the authority to quote, to take it the next step, to get it to somebody who can buy. And now you've got 2 people who visited your site with 1 transaction. So you see these underlying details, they mean a lot. And that's why I would say, just in addition to everything that everybody's talking about here, you've got to get into those details.
I completely agree with your comment about details. I think devil's really in the details, so you really need to pay attention to that, especially when it comes to conversion rate. So, Dave, I am actually going to move to you now. What are your thoughts so far overall in terms of defining the conversion rate? Since you do a lot of work overall from the marketing automation perspective, are there going to be any metrics that are going to be different in the marketing automation world overall, driving the conversion rate? And what is the perspective of Google? If you could share from the conversion rate perspective, do they really care for the conversion rate when they decide, okay, how powerful your domain is going to be and whether I should be sending traffic your way or not?
Right. And yeah, I do agree with the chat across the board so far, and everybody has got great perspectives, and especially I like how Chase is leveling in some B2C, and Chris is bringing us back to B2C or B2B as well. And the dichotomy between that is really, as far as Google's concerned, they care about how useful your website is to your users, right? So what's that trustability score? What's the rank inside of that, and how much weight do you carry? The more you help your customers to complete their conversions, the more they get there and they do what they need to, and then they're able to move on, the better off you're going to be as far as Google's concerned. So that's, of course, a big part of it. One of the things that Chris tied into, and that's the different metrics or measurements, is where a lot of businesses, especially in B2B, tend to get a little bit confused, or where there's a little bit more wiggle or fudge room in the agency world, where people can say, well, look, your conversion rate's way up. You got 10,000 hits on your website. Well, I don't care about hits. I can have a monkey sitting on a keyboard, click, 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 and if nobody's buying, I don't care, right? So going back to what the true goal of your organization is really important in the entire conversion rate optimization world, or in the life of your website's conversions. So start at what the ultimate goal of your business is. I want to make more money. Okay, well, that's good. That's not very smart. That's not specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-based, all that stuff, right? So what can I actually impact? And so you look at, okay, I need more people on my website. So that's definitely a part of it. But I also need more of the right people on my website, and I need them to be doing the right things. Your website's not Where's Waldo. If people get to your website and they're just like, oh, I don't know, I'm going to click over here and over here and over here, it doesn't help. And yeah, that throws your clicks way up if they care enough to keep clicking. But I want fewer clicks, as Chris said, getting me right to that purchase or right to that next step in my buyer's journey to get me there. And there are tools that you can use. Google Analytics is free, and you can go through the traffic analysis reports to see, okay, well, they're clicking here and then they're going here. 80% of our people go to the About Us page, and then they see that, I've got a picture of my dog where it looks like I'm electrocuting him, and so they freak out and they leave. Nobody that I know has an electrocuted dog on their website, but it's very important that you're level setting between what your customers' expectations are and what you get, right? So you say, okay, well, analytics is telling me this. You can use tools like Lucky Orange or SEMrush, or, in my case, we use HubSpot to see, okay, here's where all of these pieces are going. And then you just set it up so that, okay, here's what's most important for me. I need most this. For B2Bs, it's probably form completions or quotes, requests for quotes. For B2Cs, it's probably going right out and purchase. Sometimes I really wish I was B2C focused, because it's so much easier just to say, yeah, you got more money. Congratulations. Now give me more money. But it's harder for B2Bs. So push all of that and make sure that you're getting it set. And so I guess to ramble, or to cut short my little ramble here, it's make sure that your website is as useful as possible, and that it's actually completing your business goals and helping you grow. If you're not doing more of what really matters, you can really get hoodwinked by marketing agencies or by folks in the industry that are just saying, yeah, you got more clicks. Congratulations, buddy. Now give me more money. That doesn't help.
Okay, and I love the way you emphasize on the usability. I think that is so critical overall. And bringing the business value. I think that is super critical as well. But I am actually going to disagree on one point, which is going to be your monkey story. And I am completely okay with monkey as long as they are swiping somebody else's credit card and I am getting money in my. So thank you so much for that insight, Dave. I'm now actually going to move to slightly more political discussion that is very rarely appreciated in this room, and that is going to be around platform selection driving the conversion rate. I know that, platform is critical. Platform selection is critical. Each business is going to be unique. Each platform is going to have unique capabilities. They are designed for a specific purpose. Okay, if the platform is going to be misfit, it's going to feel weird from the user's perspective. It's probably not going to be as usable because it's just going to feel out of the place. Now, in your experience, let's say if you are not selecting the right platform for your site, does that impact the conversion rate optimization? I'm actually going to start with you, Eric.
Yes. Well, yeah, it does a lot. Yeah, you have to have a platform and a tool that's flexible enough to do everything that you want. And nowadays, the platforms are pretty evolved. A lot of, really all the common ones, have integrations with all of the marketing platforms. But you can put a varying number of hours into making things work the way you want. Also, we had a conversation a few weeks or months ago regarding cost of site build out and what does it cost to maintain a site. And when you analyze a site, there's a tension between what is this feature worth? I mean, what is the value to the company, and what does it cost? You can build out a site that costs, say, $50,000, but you may find that your hosting fee is $2,000 because you chose a platform that's just what the fees are. And your site owner goes, whoa, nobody told me about that. So I can't afford that at this initial stage. So we look at stages of, I don't know if you call it evolution of, I guess, stages of a business stages of a site. Some customers we see start out with a small site with just a handful of products. Then they realize that they want to add more extensions or plugins. They realize their hosting cost is going to go up to $600 a month. And this happened to us. And then they say, well, we're not getting enough value. So we start to optimize the site. We start to evolve the requirements. And then we realize that it's probably it's time to reconsider what platform they're using because they don't have the flexibility. And perhaps also along the way, their requirements have evolved to the point where maybe they need something like a Salesforce integration with some custom coding. So then it's like, whoa, it's a whole different game. You can't just do a lot of that stuff right out of the chute with some of these platforms. It's going to require a developer. It's going to require some custom integration.
Some very interesting insights. And now I'm actually going to move to Chase. And Chase, you are the honest e-commerce guy, and you are not just one from the branding purposes. I mean, you are a real honest e-commerce guy, and there are going to be a lot of developers. I mean, they are going to be super passionate, super emotional about their platform. You know what? E-commerce can do everything. Shopify can do everything. Magento can do everything. But you know for a fact that, let's say if you are a consumer site, and let's say if you try to implement that in BigCommerce, even BigCommerce is probably not going to agree with that because their market positioning is slightly different. So is Shopify. I mean, everybody has their own market positioning. So when you are doing this cross-fit just because overload that platform and try to make it work, you know that it's probably not going to be as usable. It's going to feel out of the place. From your experience, have you seen any similar situations where it was just overkill and you knew that that's going to drop the conversion rate optimization significantly just because of that platform selection?
I don't think that all right. So your question was, have I ever seen a site or consulted in a situation where it's overkill, the technology powering what they're doing?
Exactly.
All the time. People get caught up on buzzwords. They get caught up on the coolest, newest thing. Headless is one that is being thrown around so much right now for the speed elements of it. But 99% of e-commerce direct-to-consumer brands do not need a headless site, and I'll take that to the grave because it is so much more complex than they think, and it's so much of a time sink and a investment maintenance sink that they don't understand to do nothing better than, we love Shopify, but Magento can do it just fine. Adobe can do it just fine. BigCommerce can do it just fine. You don't need headless. It's just a big buzzword, and it's just the future of the internet with an API first kind of build. I kind of went off on a tirade there, but at the end of the day, every platform can solve the solution that it's built to solve. We are specialists in Shopify. Why? Because I don't want to learn another platform, and I'm lazy. I'm sure that anyone can probably find the same results that we find for our clients on Magento, on BigCommerce. I have seen brands on like WordPress custom builds and Squarespace doing millions of dollars a year. So don't think that your technology is limiting your sales. If you have a product that people want, they will buy it. I have seen the worst designed user flow websites just doing millions of dollars a year selling a product. If they want it that bad, they will use it. So I guess that's my caveat to the whole thing about technology.
Love your honesty, to be honest. I mean, you are honest about yourself. You are honest about e-commerce. Love it, man. Thank you so much. Okay, Isaiah, I'm going to move to you. What is your perspective overall from the platform selection perspective? Do you agree with Chase that the majority of the sites that you see are probably over-engineered? And does that drive the conversion rate?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of them are. I mean, I think what happens is a lot of people don't really think about the architecture. They just kind of all of a sudden fall into one of these platforms, and they never really did a proper analysis of why they should choose that platform over the other platforms. They just weren't very educated, or they went with an agency that just pushed them in a direction because that's all they knew. But I also agree with Chase. I think that people often blame the platforms more than they should. If I just switch from BigCommerce to Shopify, or if I switch from Magento to Shopify, that's going to solve my sales. And I think the reality is it can help you, and it can make a big difference if you're on the wrong platform, moving to a better platform. But definitely the things that Chase said make a lot of sense, where it's more important to have a really good business, good product, good compelling reason to buy from you. But I would say that choosing the right platform, what it allows you to do is it allows you to scale the business. Hopefully it's the right platform for the next multiple years so you can keep growing on it. And it allows you to, I think the biggest thing that we're seeing right now is it allows you to take your investment and focus on improving the website rather than fixing and trying to hack the platform to do what you want it to do. So there's a lot of companies that are on Magento that are in over their heads because Magento has now become a fairly enterprise platform. Even yes, there's an open source edition, but it's pretty expensive to do it well. So a lot of companies are still kind of in over their heads on a platform like Magento. And then on the flip side, and that's why Shopify and BigCommerce have gained so much traction. I mean, Shopify gains more traction by far than any other platform, but it's almost worth more than Adobe, which is kind of crazy. Shopify right now is almost worth more than the entire company Adobe, who bought Magento for a small little drop in the bucket relative to Adobe's market value, which just tells you how much traction Shopify is getting. But the other problem with Shopify is that when you start doing 30, 40, 50, $100+ million, which we have some clients doing, you start to run into some massive potential problems like internationalization, maybe trying to build some sort of custom app that it can't do, ERP integrations. So then you start to kind of run into the opposite problem where maybe it actually is better to be on a Magento or headless or custom kind of build because you're trying to hack a platform that's a box and isn't meant to do this really enterprise level functionality. So you kind of have I guess I would break it into, you kind of have two different problems, right? You're either on something that's over-engineered, over-complicated, too expensive to maintain for what you need, and you need to downgrade to a Shopify or a BigCommerce. We're dealing with someone that's on Salesforce Commerce or Cloud Craze. So God knows how much money they're paying on Cloud Craze for this awful website. And then it's an easy downgrade, but it's really an upgrade to BigCommerce, where it can handle, with the B2B edition that they just launched, can handle all the B2B things that Salesforce Cloud Craze can handle for probably a lot less money. So there's a lot of people that need to downgrade, and then there's a lot of people that need to upgrade, but they need to kind of level up their business because they got spoiled with the Shopify, apps, stall apps, kind of get by cheap, but that doesn't really work when you get to like 50 million or $100 million online. You're going to start to run into some sort of crazy technical problem at that level of scale, unless you're really lucky and you're like Kylie Jenner and you sell $400 million of like lipstick from an Instagram ad. But most companies can't do that with a simple product line. They usually, as your sales grow, your complexity increases along with it, which means your technical requirements go up quite a bit. Does that make sense? I'm trying to kind of simplify it and break it down into kind of like the two paths that people need to take. And
yeah, I completely agree with everything that you said, and I am pretty sure Eric is going to have the counter there, because this is supposed to be a product agnostic community, but since we are mentioning the product names, now let's go for it. Okay, go Eric.
Well, I mean, we are not a shop that deals with just one platform. We believe in using the right tool, and so we do a deep requirements analysis. And about half of our customers are B2B sites. So we would not use certain platforms because of the requirements that they need. Like they need corporate purchasing, for example. Well, That's not so easy to do. On the other hand, we have a few difficult customers who say, oh, I did lots of research and I was looking at lots of blog articles and we have chosen PrestaShop. It's like, what? It's kind of like, what? Who was what? So, it's kind of, customers have their own ideas about these things. Yeah, I would agree that many sites are over-engineered. I would also agree that there's a long life cycle to a lot of sites, and what looked good 5 years ago when the site was built, now it looks like, whoa, there's way more easier things to do or faster things to do. And your site owner is going, what are you talking about? I just built my site 3 years ago. What do you mean it's not right? They don't want to dump another, 5 figures into building out a huge site. That's the kind of sites I usually deal with. So there's a lot of factors here. It's not just technology. It's not just what it costs to host. There's many, many factors. And I also want to throw out another little consideration. For B2B sites, there are special, I guess you'd call them special purpose platforms. I'm sure Christine would have something to say about that. But one that has been rising, for example, is Oro Commerce. It's not something you hear much about if you're not a developer or an agency. But if you're doing a pure B2B site, you might suggest it to a customer. They go, I never heard of this. What? Oh, let's put it on Shopify. It's like, whoa, hold on. You have to do a requirements analysis. So I think Christina will have something to say about B2B platforms too.
Yeah, I can jump in if this is a good time, because very interesting discussion here. I would agree. I think platforms do matter. Let's put it that. If we're talking about conversion today, and conversion is a measurement of, in the B2B world, did you help the customer solve the problem that they came to your site to do, right? Did you convert them, whatever that end goal was? Some platforms are going to do that better than others. And people wouldn't be replatforming if there weren't problems that existed today and they had to get off of one to get onto another. I would say that there are some sites that are out there that are under-engineered, right? I mean, if your speed isn't there and you don't have the performance of the site, then you need to get off of that one, so that all things being equal, now you need to work on your data and your own product information and the things that are important to your customers, so that you have the opportunity to increase your conversion rate, right? So if they're leaving because it doesn't look good, it's slow, and there are other challenges, then that's not the right platform as well. So I think platforms matter, and it really comes down to that requirements gathering and determining what specifically will your customers do on the site, and can this site handle it? And sometimes you have to think about, when you're making a vendor selection for a platform, not only what am I going to do today, but what do I need it to do for me in 3 to 5 years? I think about manufacturers who have distribution networks today, who maybe are going to start off with their e-commerce platform as a distributor portal, but in the future they're going to open it up to more B2C or B2B, but direct to that business rather than through the distributor. So they may be stepping through their journey in phases. So you've got to select a vendor and a platform that can take you there. So it has to be configurable with options that can be turned on or turned off according to your needs that are going to drive those conversions that you're looking for. So, yep, platform matters.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Chris, for that. Dave, I'm actually going to move to you now. What have you seen from the platform perspective? Do they matter? Do they not matter?
They do matter. And what I think platform, and I love to speak in metaphors and analogies. So the platform chat is a lot like the Ford versus Chevy debate, or Ford versus Honda, or whatever.
Yep.
Right? So a lot of people get all caught up in what the tool is, and they forget, well, you kind of need to have a roadmap to get where you're going to go. So you can drive around all day in a Honda or a Ferrari, and it doesn't matter. You're going to wind up driving in circles if you don't have the right GPS, right? So make sure that you're plugging in what you actually need to accomplish, and then it will actually pay out. It all comes from knowing, again, what does your customer need? And if your customer and you down the road are going to need massive capabilities and be able to do all kinds of different fun things, then it's going to be very interesting or very necessary to have a tool that can scale up and do all of those things. So if you can, and I'll stick on my car analogy, if your customer, I'm speaking as a developer, as a website guy, right? If my customer needs a minivan, I'm not going to put them in a sports car, right? Because you need it. And B2B kind of needs the minivan or the truck or the semi. And B2C, a lot of times, especially if you're just pushing lipsticks, and then all you need is a moped. I don't know. I mean, you just need something
a fancy moped.
A fancy moped that has hashtags for Instagram on it, right? So it's making sure that what you do can deliver the tool, but you still need to know where you're going. You still need to know what you're going to accomplish. And that's what you should first measure as you set it up.
Okay, go Chase. Great insights, by the way, Dave. Thank you so much for that. Go Chase.
Yeah, I think that oftentimes what gets overlooked in the platform debate is the platform isn't going to solve the strategy. Yep. So at the end of the day, it's literally, what's the marketing strategy after this website works? That's where people really need to think about the stuff. How are you going to drive more traffic? How are you going to iterate on your offer to try to, increase average order value, or, just increase your conversion rate? So that's kind of where my perspective comes from. Like it could be any of the big e-commerce platforms solving a problem for a direct-to-consumer client, but if there's no strategy around how to sell more of those widgets, it doesn't matter. It's like, you don't migrate if you're not going to change your strategy.
Yeah. I want to add one thing to what you're saying. I like the analogy of the cars. We've been trying to do that as well to kind of simplify it for people that aren't as in the weeds as we are. And I think an important part to note with these platforms is, like, if you're going to get the Ferrari, you better be prepared to maintain the Ferrari and get an oil change. And so, we use that analogy with some of the more expensive enterprise platforms. Like if you're going to go with this, you need to, like, and if you're a Fortune 500 company, you can afford to crash your Ferrari and repair it. But if you're, a small $5 million business, you can't afford to do that. Right. So that's where, but you can afford the moped, right? Or whatever, that analogy. So, and that's where the platform matters, because that maintenance cost, you can, if you don't have a high maintenance cost, you can put that money towards strategy and marketing and all the things that Chase is saying. But if you're sinking all your money into maintenance, then you're just like treading water and you can't do anything.
Yeah. So guys, seems like the car analogy is really popular today. Chris, do you have anything to add with car analogy?
This is great. I would say the car analogy is perfect. I can't add anything to that. So.
Amazing. Eric, anything to add there by any chance?
I like to talk about trucks. So I think it's more like delivery trucks. It's like, do you want a little Ford Transit, or are you looking for a 20-foot flatbed van? It's going to last you for 200,000 miles with a diesel engine. Are you going to go around the country, or are you going to stay in town? So those are the things that we would consider when we're doing a strategy and evaluation. How many years are you going to be around on this site? How many brands do you have on it? How many thousands of products do you have? What languages are you selling in? What markets are you selling in? Those are all things that matter.
Yeah, I completely agree. Do you guys have any short stories that you might be able to share related to improvement in the conversion rate optimization with your clients?
When okay, I love doing this and I hate doing this because everybody gets all wrapped up about it. I built a website for Prince like 8 years ago, and one of the things that we did when we launched the website at the beginning is right when you opened up the website, it had this MP3 that would load automatically and play that would go shh. And it freaked everybody out when they visited, but Prince really wanted that damn sound on it because it was supposed to be hush hush and really crazy. So we went back to him and we're like, everybody's freaking out and our bounce rates are huge on this website because they get it, they're opening it up, and they get this big goofy sound on the website and then they're shutting it down. Like, oh, well, I guess that's fine. So we got rid of it finally. And after we got rid of it, then they really started selling hundreds of thousands of downloads or in downloads on the site. But you sometimes have to nudge back on the customer and say, I know you really want this Ferrari, but you need to carry a semi's worth of stuff. And so you're going to need 17 Ferraris with their itty bitty little frunks to get where you need to go, right? So match and don't be afraid to push back and just be realistic. Not every little piece of candy or glitz or glamour is actually useful to the user.
Yeah, I completely agree with that story. So now we are only taking the closing advice or the closing comments. So I am going to start with you, Eric. What are your closing comments or the advice?
Oh, well, I would just say work with the marketers to deliver the best performance you can. Make sure you have measurable metrics, measurable conversions, like whatever that means in your industry. Might mean filling out contacts, might mean quote requests, might mean actual sales, might mean leads into HubSpot or Salesforce. So whatever your metric is, make sure you know what it is and measure it, and then iterate, revise it. Don't just do a plan and go a year later, what was that plan? Yeah, you got to work on it. That's it.
Yeah, I completely agree. The plan needs to be revolving. It needs to be on a rolling basis, and you need to continuously communicate whatever you had decided so that everybody knows where they are heading and they are not lost. Thank you so much, Eric, for that. Chase, your closing advice regarding conversion rate.
I just want to reiterate on you need data to be able to do this appropriately. And if you're a startup, you don't have the data and you need to focus on marketing. Like, I really want to drive that point home. And then kind of beyond that, if you're going to take a look at your conversion rate and really like try to improve your website, you just need to understand that your website will never be done. It's a constant iterative process. So we have those conversations very early on when we're talking to people, and they oftentimes don't like to say, I'm going to invest 6 figures in this website and then I have to work on it afterwards. What do you mean? Like, well, that's the business you're in. So just kind of bursting some bubbles, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, amazing. Love it. Thank you so much, Chase, for that. Isaiah, what is your closing advice related to conversion rate?
Yeah, it's honestly very similar to what everyone just said, but I think the companies that we see that are doing the best with conversion rate and overall e-commerce sales is they're willing to constantly improve and on all fronts, right? Like they're doing rebrands, working on photo shoots, they're upgrading their photography, they're upgrading their content, the copy, they're testing out different ads and tweaking their ads. They're looking at all the things that go into e-commerce. Even, we have one that's testing out all these new fulfillment providers and getting better shipping and logistics in place so that they can ship faster. I mean, you have to, even customer service, you really have to be looking at every single thing and be willing to kind of bit by bit invest and improve in it. And it's a lot, but you have to have that mindset. If you just let it sit there, you're going to become obsolete.
I completely agree. I think it's really a journey, and you have to try a lot before your users are going to be bored with your brand, with your investment. So thank you so much for that. Chris, what is your advice related to conversion rate?
Conversion rate is just one metric. That's what I would say. And get into the details because, if you're increasing traffic and your conversion rate is going down, but your dollars are going up in all things considered, your margins are going up, your acquisition costs are still lower, and your dollars are going up, you might be getting exactly what you hoped to be getting, but your conversion rate is something less. So don't forget, it's just one metric.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for that. Dave, what is your closing advice? And we might need to make it shorter just because a lot of people might have meetings.
Nope, that's completely cool. And I'm one of those folks that has a meeting. So be as useful as possible to your user, and the rest will take care of itself. How's that?
Okay, love it. Thank you so much, Dave, for that. And guys, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I cannot thank our guests enough for coming on the show, for sharing their knowledge and journey. I always pick up learnings from our guests, and hopefully you learned something new today. If you want to learn more about Eric Landman, head over to earthlinginteractive.com. If you want to learn more about Christina Harrington, head over to genalpha.com. If you want to learn more about Dave Meyer, head over to busyweb.com. If you want to learn more about Isaiah Bollinger, head over to trellis.co. If you want to learn more about Chase Clymer, head over to electriceye.io. Links and more information will also be available in the show notes. If anything in this podcast resonated with you and your business, you might want to check other related episodes, including the interview with Steve Rice, who discusses why congruence is the most important factor to optimize product category architecture, navigation, user experience, customer journeys, and campaign design. Also, the interview with Dave Meyer from Busy Web, who discusses how marketing automation works and why that is important to understand customer journeys. Also, don't forget to subscribe and spread the word among folks with similar backgrounds. If you have any questions or comments about the show, please review and rate us on your favorite podcasting platform or DM me on any social channels. I'll try my best to respond personally and make sure you get help. Thank you, and I hope to catch you on the next episode of the WBS Podcast.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.